So we've been, it's doing something, it's thinking.
This meeting is being live streamed, it says.
Okay. That's what's on YouTube.
Okay.
I can move that over there for you if you want to see.
And are the captions showing up? Yes. One,
Yes,
two,
they
three,
are.
1, 2, 3.
So exciting.
Or is it? It doesn't look right.
They'll never be totally accurate.
1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. No. Somehow it says okay, though. It's got a mind of its own. That's what's on YouTube.
Responding to us.
It's slower. YouTube is slower than us. There's a lag. Not exactly
Oh,
live.
there, it's coming.
That's how long the lag is.
Wow, that's impressive. All right, well, we're going, but that's the first lesson in accessibility
Yay.
for the Accessibility Committee. So what we have new people, and we are missing some of the committee members. So this is going to be an informal get together to catch up because we haven't met for a while. And we usually start with this idea that we should check that the meeting is accessible. And I think for the people in the room, everybody can hear and see. I did meet people who said that people with hearing loss who said that they are very interested in the work of the committee, but they are not confident to come because they wouldn't hear in the room. And that is why I have asked you, staff, to check that at least the broadcast has the captions. So if anybody wanted to listen and see, they have those options remotely. But I'm not sure, given the delay, that that would be very sensible. So this tells me we have to work on this.
Okay.
Yeah, anyway, interesting.
If I could just add, council meetings I watch on YouTube. I turn the captioning on. It's imperfect, but it's better than the naked ear.
So you turn on your own caption option?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's another thing we could communicate.
Okay.
So we can try that. So I think Nick just volunteered to do an experiment, to watch this one where we're broadcasting
Oh, great.
with the captions, and
Right.
also try an older one where there aren't any captions on the recording, but
Okay.
you can turn them on yourself. All right,
Peter has his hand up.
Peter.
I was wondering if there are any plans to have microphones sort of for each person in the new community hall?
I think that is an excellent question that we will get to shortly. So.
I don't think it's on the agenda, if you want me to respond.
No, I don't think it is on the agenda, but go ahead.
Well, and,
You can introduce
I
yourself.
think
too.
she means not shortly. She's happy to answer now.
Maybe we should do our introductions first, so everybody knows who.
That was the next item.
On the screen.
That is the next item. So let's go around. Okay, so I'm Kathy Pecora Fuller and I try to be the chair of this committee, but I'm mostly learning.
I'm Drew Backen, Island Community Planner with the Bowden Planning Department.
I'm Nick Mosley. I'm a new member of the committee.
I'm,
Welcome, Nick.
Representing.
yeah,
So what's your interest in accessibility?
Oh my. I'm a senior. I'm a member of Seniors Keeping Young. I was encouraged to join the committee and hopefully to report back and perhaps even provide a conduit, because there's so much I don't know, but I'm more than open to listening to contributions.
And I think you told me you have some lived experience with people with mobility
Yes, I do.
challenges. All right, and maybe I should have said, my primary interest is in sensory aging, and in particular hearing and aging. And so I think it is great, given how many seniors live on Bowen, who already, need some accessibility, but all of the many more who are eventually going to have easier lives if the island becomes more accessible. So
We're
welcome
moving in
aboard.
the older direction, hopefully.
Yeah, well, I do think something I read recently, we are over the typical proportion of seniors on Bowen.
I think it, if I remember correctly, 42% are 55 or better.
Yeah, and I don't think it's that high other places. So it's an interesting group. All right, Peter.
I'm Peter Williamson. My interest in this committee stems primarily from me having a neurological disease called primary lateral sclerosis, which is a mouthful. It's similar to ALS, but it's not quite as devastating as ALS. People usually don't actually die from it. But it's I'm just embarking on a voyage of finding out what it's like not to be able to do all the things I used to do. At the moment, my main problem is walking, but I'm quite likely to have other problems in the future. I'm finding out very quickly how accessibility is a big issue. And I'm also very conscious that accessibility issues are different for everybody. Whatever their limitations, they're not the same limitations as the next person's. And lumping people with accessibility issues together is very difficult because, no two people are the same. And no two people are limited in quite the same way or have the same way of having to deal with things. So I'm finding out more than more than I ever thought I'd want to know. But I can bring to the table just some limited experience of feeling limited.
Mm-hmm. And I think just to kind of, thinking back to when we started these discussions, this idea that, some conditions are permanent and progressive. Some conditions are temporary. Somebody might just have had a knee surgery and it's going to be hard for a few weeks or a few months, but then they'll be better. And then some are situational. And I think it's not only are people different, but their environments are different. And really what we are at is the intersection of people and their environments. So Bowen Island is a pretty unusual environment in many ways too. So lots to learn.
Yeah.
Keep going around.
Hi, everyone. I'm Carla Skuse. I'm the Manager of Environment and Parks Planning. And I'm just here for a delegation today. I'm not usually on this committee.
Okay.
I'm Jillian Drake. I'm the Manager of Recreation and Community Services for municipality. I'm also not on this committee, but I'm here as a delegation, and also I'm one of the main staff leads on the community center project. So it seems like a good idea to check in here as well from time to time. So it's a pleasure to come today.
I'm Tina Nielsen. I'm the Chief Librarian at the Bowen Island Library, and I'm here representing the library and as a staff resource. So I'm not a voting member of the committee, but I'm here to find out what the library needs to do to meet accessibility requirements in the community.
All righty. So now we have, I think we can approve the agenda.
Audio now unmute. Sorry, I'm still here.
Yeah, Alex.
Oh, sorry, Alex.
That's okay.
Of course.
Councillor Alex Jurgensen, I am the council liaison for this committee. along with fellow counselor Sue Ellen Fast, who I believe is absent.
Right, that's right. Okay, and do remind me if I forget. I'll ask Steph to help me keep an eye on it if you have your hand up on the screen.
Audio now.
All right, so I think we can approve the agenda. So we don't have to vote on anything.
Like this
Don't
nice
really have a
practice.
meeting, but I
Oh,
think,
that's right.
I think that there are no issues with the agenda. And I think there are no
Yeah.
issues with the minutes.
So
So we can do check on those points, and we have nobody from the public. So now we have the delegations. So maybe, given Peter's question, we can skip to Jillian to answer the question about accessibility in new council chamber.
And specifically, I was hearing your question being about microphones at different speakers as opposed to the overhead microphones. So I know it's definitely been something that's been discussed with staff and with Sea to Sky that are IT support. So my understanding is that they are looking into microphones that may not be at each place. Maybe they're a little more shared than at each station, but something that is much closer to the speaker, not relying on that overhead microphone.
So I think there is definitely a problem in the, given the reports of people who have hearing issues for sure.
Mhm.
And I think just, logically, there isn't a good quality. And the better the quality is, the closer the microphones are. So that is something we talked about when I visited, and I don't know if you realize, but I did follow up with Barry McKinnon, the MC Squared acoustical consultant. And basically, he was very helpful. He gave me some information, but he basically said when he was involved in the planning, it was like at the beginning. And of course, since then, all the technology it's a new world. So whatever had been recommended way back when about FMs and so forth as assistive technology that could be used in the council chamber or in the theater, basically that all has to be updated. And so just to recap, I think to me, what I learned when I had the chance to go around the facility with you was the architecture looks pretty good, and I was really happy with the acoustical features that, I was looking for. And the next piece of the accessibility work for that building, in my mind, from a hearing communication point of view, is the technology. But technology is a whole lot less committal than architecture. And anyway, it's going to change over time. So as far as I am aware, that's kind of where we're at now. So I would like to know how to continue to interact. So that is another thing. How can we actually participate in some of the decision making around what the choices are or what the funding opportunities are or so forth. I think that's interesting to us as a committee to be as helpful as we can be. And then I think the third piece of the plan that I was really excited in our discussions, when was that? December, January? It was a lot of snow at the time.
Blurred, I'm not sure when it was anyway, as long as ago last year.
But the third piece is nothing is going to be accessible if nobody knows how to use the facility and the equipment. And so training and education are absolutely necessary. And those also, they take time, but it's not a gigantic price tag. And I think true to what Peter said, it's going to be learning as we go and developing, better procedures and better policies and making sure everybody, can without any hesitation say, oh, here is this thing that we can do to make the programming in the center more accessible, or the meetings or so forth. So I think you agreed that you would embrace having training for the staff.
Absolutely.
So that is another thing I would really love to kind of, you know, pursue, and I don't know what the avenue is for pursuing that.
Keep reminding her to ask you.
Well, we are, I think, soon, so we are working on the policies for the center, and we'll soon shift into operations as well. I mean, they're all very linked, but right now I've been working on that staff training piece, but sorry. Lee and I have spoken about that recently too. It's definitely not slipped our minds at all. So we're really excited about working with you on that training piece. So that's one that I know we won't forget at all. So and it's coming soon. We just have some sort of more pressing pieces first. The piece that I don't have the information right away because it's not in my hands is about what the solution is with the microphones in the new council chambers. So but we do have a meeting tomorrow about the move, so I can ask them.
So as I understand our role, and I'm kind of saying this partly for Nick's coming on board, is my understanding of our roles is we are here to help you. So I've been kind of cautious about, you know, not telling you what to do, because that's not my role, but I would love to help you. And I think Alex would love to help you on the vision side. And mobility, I think, is fairly tame because it's one floor and it's fairly easy to get in, but there may be other issues that we can help you with. And I just one second, and I'm gonna say to our next meeting, which is May the 6th, we are planning, we have got agreement for a presentation from a person who is working for an international hearing aid company, which is the first company to use a product called Auracast, AURACAST. And basically Auracast is going to revolutionize hearing accessibility. And so the group that runs Bluetooth, this is basically the new Bluetooth. So everybody who has any kind of hearing aid, it's standardized across all brands. It's standardized for other kinds of receivers, so you don't have to have a hearing aid. And anybody can tune into a Bluetooth, more than one if they like, of these new Bluetooth Auracast channels, just like you would pick a Wi-Fi channel. You might need Steph to help you pick the Wi-Fi channel. But basically, this means that everybody will have hearing accessibility in a very new way. So that is the topic of our meeting on May 6th. So maybe that would be a good one for you and some of your people to attend, because there's no point to buy technology that is now going to become obsolete.
Absolutely. Okay.
So it's exciting times. So somebody, Alex, had your hand up.
Press C and D plus.
I did. Jessica and I have discussed the policy and training piece at length, and we've put together a bunch of resources that would be helpful potentially to both the library and to the Muni, especially as it relates to community center that would support a wide range of disabilities.
All right.
More than happy to do that.
So maybe that Steph can note an action for you and I and anybody else on the committee who wants to kind of put our heads together about what these training materials might be as a starting point anyway. Nick, had your hand up.
I was just going to mention, if you wanted as a resource, a guinea pig, perhaps a senior guinea pig, to test that technology, whatever you put in,
Okay.
You can pick me if you like. A willing volunteer.
Thank you. I made a note.
Well, and I think
Audio now on mute.
there's going to be lots of opportunities to engage volunteers and also to have some intergenerational teams. So that could really be an exciting activity unto itself. Peter?
That's interesting. It's just occurred to me that accessibility is also becoming now a technological issue for people who are not particularly technological, often older people. I'm on another board, and we have someone who's, highly qualified professional, but she just battles completely with meetings which we often hold remotely and online. She's always trying to speak and the microphone's muted or the camera's, some things you can't see the screen and you can't, so it's not easy for people. So the training, I think, is important. But the other thing that occurred to me is that, a lot of people are getting very familiar with things like Zoom meetings. And really, it's not that challenging. And with a little bit of help, pretty much everybody's going to be able to do it.
Well, I think I'm glad we have this chorus saying yes, training.
Yeah.
And I think it is going to turn out to be even more important than the architecture. And I'm just going to also make a point for Tina that I think from a public education point of view, the library is a fabulous context for people, engaging with communication technologies and learning about them. And I think a lot of it is going to be online, like with Zoom, because of things being virtual, but a lot of it's happening on people's phones. And in my travels over the last few months, I have met many seniors who have hearing aids. They know that on their phone, they can make their hearing aids do, Cirque du Soleil, feats of wonder, but they never got trained how to do it. And the hearing aid providers also say, the technology is fabulous, but what they need is more time, probably working with groups in Sky to say, okay, everybody who wants to learn more about how to get the most out of using Bluetooth to connect to all of these devices, let's kind of ramp up that knowledge. And it also kind of creates, knowledge in the community, so everybody is aware of this. So I think there's going to be part of this is going to be in the facility, but I'm thinking part of it's just going to be public education. The library might be a venue for it. All right, exciting times. So thanks for asking that question about the microphones. Where has it taken us?
I think we're gonna go to Carla and outdoor recreation.
Yeah. So outdoor recreation fund, this topic for Carla.
Thank you. Thanks for having me today. So one of the rec staff have brought this grant to our attention. It is a grant from the Outdoor Recreation Council of BC. They're from $2,000 to $10,000. The grant deadline is in 15 days, so something we have to put together quite quick. There is a matching contribution required. So if you apply for a grant of $3,000, for example, you would have to match those funds. But you can match the funds with in-kind staff time or volunteer time. So we can get a little bit more creative with how we match those funds. But it does make it a challenge because most of our budgeting process is already finished. So we can't ask for funds for a brand new project right now that that isn't either already planned as a capital project or that we can't batch. Like we can use operational kind of staff time as a match to that, but not a, yeah. So we're looking for kind of a simple, easy to achieve project. The funding is mainly for community-based initiatives that encourage outdoor recreation and nature-based experiences. And there are 3 priorities for the funding. I think there's education and stewardship, and I can't remember what the other one is, but one of them is inclusive participation. And we thought this would be a really good opportunity to increase accessibility in our, parks, trails, beaches, potentially. We had the idea of purchasing an amphibious wheelchair to be kept at the med shed probably, and potentially used at Sandy Beach. We foresee there could be a couple of challenges with that, but that was just an idea that we had. And I guess mainly I'm coming here today to see if you like that idea, if you have better ideas, or other suggestions that we might want to explore.
Did you say can you share screen and show a picture?
The picture, yeah.
Device, so I looked at the material in advance, but I don't know if everybody has.
Yeah, Councilor Dickerson has his hand up as well.
Okay. Alex, go ahead.
Audio now
Thank
on
you. Really love the idea of the amphibious wheelchair.
options. Carlos
Has,
Hughes, Bowen Island Municipal.
Could a tandem bike also be potentially considered? Well, I don't have a picture of one of those handy, but they're the ones where there's the 2 seats and they kind of follow each other on the same bicycle frame.
Say it again.
Uh,
What
a
is it?
A tandem bicycle, which is like
Tandem
it's like
bicycle.
it's like you take 2 bicycles and you add them end to end.
You mean like Daisy?
Yeah, kind of like that.
Okay, just for any person who needs to have a companion to go on a
Yeah,
bicycle
whether that
ride.
be for steering or for balance or for any number of reasons.
Well, that's a great idea.
There is
Alex?
also a newer product called a tandem trike where it's the same, but it's got instead of a back wheel, it has 2 wheels. And that also provides greater balance. So that might be another alternative as well.
Okay, Tina had.
I was just gonna ask Alex, are these full-size adult size? I've only ever seen the tandem things for children.
No, there's full-size ones as well.
Okay.
A great question.
And so would it be the entire bicycle that is a tandem bicycle, or is it something you attach onto an existing bicycle?
Okay, so the ones that attach onto an existing bicycle are typically the ones for children. This would be
Okay.
like a full-size body frame
Okay,
with either 2 or 3 wheels, depending on how much you want to look at balance as a consideration.
Do you happen to know, Alex, if there's an e-bike version of that?
There is. We are currently actually researching it at the Canadian Organization of the Blind and Deafblind on a grant of our own, and I'd be more than happy to share our research as soon as we have it with the committee and with Carla.
Would they be a potential partner?
Potentially.
Okay, that's interesting.
Can you say that again? Who's a partner?
So Alex, the organization who is already investigating that, who could be a potential
Oh, yes,
partner?
the Canadian Organization of the Blind and Deafblind, for whom Jessica is the sitting member on this committee. But I'm more than happy to pass that information along to the committee and to Carla as well.
Thank you.
I have lots of questions, but I'm just going to check in, go around the table. Peter, do you have any ideas, reactions, questions?
No, I don't. I mean, I think all of these are good ideas. And sometimes some of the simplest things are just really simple, you know, like well, just for myself, just having two handrails not too far apart would really help me get to a beach.
Mhm.
I mean, I haven't been to one of Bowen's beaches now in quite a few years, just because it seems too difficult, it's too steep. You know, I don't want to just push my interests, but, you know, but having two parallel handrails each side of the path is very, very helpful. And those sorts of things are not particularly expensive to do.
A bit more universal, perhaps, to other
Yeah.
people would lots of people would benefit.
Yeah, and but no, I'm all, you know, let's try and see what grants we can get and let's go.
Would something like railings to a beach be eligible for this
I think
grant opportunity? Nick, do you have any
I don't
thoughts?
have strong opinion. I mean, letting somebody experience being in the ocean sounds very attractive. But Peter's point about handrails and more people being able to use or being willing and likely to use also resonates.
And having, you know, some seating, so once you get down there, you know.
Mm.
So this is kind of my line of thought. One of my people on Bowen that I know, who is had an experience on Tofino when she was not mobile, and the Tofino tourism. I don't know if you've checked out other places that have these bikes, Carla, but she was thrilled to be able to have, you know, another holiday with her family on Tofino, which they'd had for decades after she became disabled. And it is Tourism Tofino who is offering that as a on request service, and they have two of them. I think, Alex, it's probably because of the idea that there could be companions and that two people might want to go together. So you can have mobile companions, you know, pushing the thing in the pictures on Tofino Tourism. Or you could have, you know, two people going side by side. The device they have is a different brand than the one you recommend, Carla. It's kind of in the same price ballpark. It's called Sand Rider, and it can go in the water, but it's really great on sand, and it also shows pictures of it going on gravel and kind of somewhat uneven terrain. So you wouldn't have to just use it to go in the water. It could be a multi-landscape device for people whose regular wheelchairs would not, you know, tolerate going on some of our trails, for example, or going downstairs to a beach. So the picture in this Sand Rider, you know, shows the thing, you know, bopping down the stairs to a beach. So I think one suggestion is, you know, maybe there are some competing products. Maybe you should talk to Tofino Tourism about how they store and how they assign it to people, and, you know, what the conditions are for deposits or charges. You know, that I tried to call them, but it just kept going to voicemail. So it's probably better if you talk to them, because I think once you buy it, what are you going to do with it? So for that one example of Tofino, they are branding it as a tourist attraction. You know, Long Beach is a fabulous tourist attraction, so people would like to go on the beach and they would like to go in the water. I'm not sure that Bowen is exactly up there on the come to our beaches and swim in our water, which has leeches and things anyway, if you go to the lake. So I'm not sure if what tourism Bowen, Bowen Tourism, what they would say about this as, you know, them being the, you know, is it the information center? Is it, you know, do you know if they have an interest in advocating for the use of this thing and for people who are non-residents of Bowen?
No, I don't know, but that's because I haven't asked them. The other person I really spoke to about it was Tina, because we thought of it as an addition to the med shed for free rental for Bowen residents and potentially like their guests. But that's a different angle for sure.
Yeah.
They don't have a lot of space at the cottage is.
And Alex, if, I don't know if Sandy Beach is quite near to your place, isn't it?
Audio now on.
Well, it being down by Cardina makes it actually a lot easier to get things down onto it, so that's actually not a bad site to launch from.
And could your place be a possible place to store the thing?
I
Or do
don't-
maintenance on it, or have
I
some
would-
volunteers contribute some
Sorry, do you
time?
mean his house or do you mean that?
The facility that.
Yeah, I don't know that they're associated with that facility.
Oh, well, that's a pity. Okay, I didn't know that. I was thinking of the place, the venue where we had our meeting last summer.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. So those are ideas, but I kind of like Alex's idea about this tandem bike. And I don't know if somebody, I mean, they may not be competing ideas. I don't know how much they would cost, and maybe Alex could tell you that what their research is, but maybe it's a, you know, you can talk about biking. Because some people with disabilities, you know, could sit on a bike and have their partner do the actual driving, as it were, the
Pedaling?
the pedaling, the controlling of the bike, and they just are coming along for the ride. But maybe the people for whom this, these other devices are intended would not be able to sit on.
I don't personally see them as competing ideas. To answer your question on the price point, for a non-electric tandem, it's around $1,400. Electric tandems can go up to 6,000, but there is a lot of variation in between.
So they would be more than these beach devices.
Mm-hmm.
And then if the, I don't know, if the library loans them out, or if the Muni loans them out, Tourism Vancouver loans them out, I guess there has to be insurance in case there are accidents. Wouldn't want somebody to go out on one of these things and drown. So I guess you'd have to cover those sorts of costs ongoing once it's acquired.
So we already have insurance for all of our med shed, and everyone signs a waiver before they borrow anything from the med shed. That basically says you won't sue the library or the municipality if there's a flaw in the equipment or if you use it incorrectly. It's not a guarantee that you won't get sued. I mean, if somebody wants to sue you, they will sue you. But that's the advice we were given when we set up the med shed. So for me, all of these things fit for me in terms of what we do with the med shed, in that we lend for free. So if it was something, I mean, I think the tourism model is probably a pay for use model. I don't know if Tofino charges for the use of their, but that's probably because they're not a government entity, so they don't have government funding, so they probably have to cover their costs, et cetera.
I don't know, we'd have to ask.
Yeah. And so for me, I'm completely open and welcome to all of these ideas. My problem is we don't have enough space, and maintenance of something that's has a motor or electrical or has salt water in it is the major issue that that we encounter. So one is, where do I physically keep it? We had hoped to build something out back that would have a larger space for storing large items like this for the med shed. But that is cost prohibitive at this point, so we don't really have a significantly large space to have, if the amphibious thing, as Carla and I talked about, comes apart into many pieces, then we could store it somewhere, but that means we, the staff, have to assemble it each time it wants to be loaned to somebody or instruct people how to assemble it. And then when it comes back, because as soon as something's wet and wet with salt water, it absolutely must be completely dried, completely washed off, and probably oiled or greased in order to keep it from corroding and rusting. And then you just don't want the thing to fall apart because it wasn't cleaned properly. And again, that just comes down to do I have staff available to do that each time something is lent out? And the same with a bicycle. There's just those things of where do you store it, who maintains it, and you can hire somebody. It's not impossible. You could, get somebody who would be willingly to come and maintain something once a month or once every 2 months, but there's a cost to that. So that's just my feedback on.
Google, since you are, Google Sandwriter.
I did, it's very similar to this one.
Yeah,
I can do it.
So it shows you how it comes
326.
apart, And I don't think it has a motor.
No,
Yeah, so anyway, I think talking to the Tofino people, they could tell you what their experience with it is. Nick.
Can I just reinforce the comment that's already been made? Anything with wheels that goes in the ocean, there's gonna be a continuing commitment towards maintenance. And I'd be a little apprehensive about that cost.
Yeah. So I was thinking of that too. So, and the Sandrider, I did look at this one and I read someone's blog who had used all of these different wheelchairs, because obviously they would know better than I would on which kind of model was best. And they said that this one is really for advanced users. It's a lot harder to get in and out of, and I can't remember what they said about swimming, but I think it doesn't have like a seatbelt necessarily. It's
you
more
can
for.
buy all of those things separately, so it adds to the
Okay.
cost. You can get a chest harness, a seatbelt.
Okay.
A bunch of things are listed on their website. If you want to add on a headrest, parking brake, which make me worried that there isn't a parking brake unless you add it on.
Especially on the hills, yeah.
A chest harness, et cetera. So
I think on that line too, like on the product you suggested, I have heard of that and it is kind of very well known. But I've heard of the mats that go down to the beach. So even if you wanted to go in your regular wheelchair, you could go on the mat because the regular wheelchair would get stuck in the sand. And then there's a whole other apparatus to roll up the mats. So I think it's also like, once you start with the vehicle, what are the other, and then you get that accessory, and then you get some other accessory, and where does it all end? So those are things that went through my mind. I'm going to suggest our colleague who couldn't come today, but I was hoping he could come today, who has done a report for accessibility in national parks. He will have knowledge of this. So maybe I can set you up with a Zoom call with this guy from Toronto Rehab, who has written the report for the Canadian national parks. And that's where I also have seen discussion about these devices. So he may have an opinion.
I have another quick suggestion, hopefully here, because I know I've taken up already a lot of your time, but it occurred to me today that I, should look back at the capital projects that I already have planned for this year and think about how I could use that project and just add some, make it more accessible. Because we're already spending money in it. So on the list for this year is to improve the boardwalk at Headwaters Park. And I'm wondering if maybe in combination with your idea, if we did handrails on the side, like, is anyone familiar with the loop trail at Headwaters Park? It's fairly wide and it's quite flat. And I think, you know, if there was, if someone wanted to go on a walk from, especially the athletic park side and around, it would be fairly short. Like, do we think that it's worthwhile to make that boardwalk more accessible, or is it,
Are there any plans to work on a railing down to Sandy Beach? What Peter suggested? Is that something that's already in the works somehow?
to Sandy Beach? No.
Because it's an easy trail, but I think you just want a railing.
It's got a slope.
Yeah, so railings, so I think the other way kind of to think about it, if I may, is, you know, who on Bowen actually would use the original device you proposed? Do we know that there are potential users? But I think what Peter proposed about the railings, or what you're proposing about the boardwalk, that would create accessibility for all kinds of people. People in wheelchairs, people with, you know, baby strollers. It would have a very large community to benefit.
I think, if I can say, I think boardwalks are great. Problem that I think of, you know, I'm in a sort of stage where I probably am thinking about getting a wheelchair and electrical one just so I can get to more places, because I can't walk very far. But if you have, you know, right now, if I was to, well, for myself, to get down like a steep slope, I can't really use this, but that's where the parallel handrails works. But they are necessarily quite close together, which is not really suitable for something like a boardwalk where you don't want it 3 feet wide. People walk together. They don't want to walk in single file. They don't, you know. So it's not really the same thing. I'm not really sure what I'm saying, but it in some ways, you know, I'm thinking like in terms of access to a beach where it's, you know, 30 feet of steepish slope. That's where parallel handrails would help me and no doubt others who find it difficult. I'm not sure that that's a great idea for longer places where it becomes more expensive and where it means that you have to narrow the actual path, you know.
If there was enough width for a grouping and the rails, then you have the best of both worlds.
Well, you do, but I think that becomes quite expensive. That's, you know, now you've got instead of a 5-foot boardwalk, you've got an 8-foot boardwalk.
So I think these are really very important points. I don't think we're going to solve them today, but I would be happy to set up a Zoom meeting with this guy, Tilak, the engineer or one of his staff who worked on these topics in their recommendations for the national parks. And then maybe Peter and Nick, if you want to, can join the call. Maybe we should all go and see these places. Maybe is there somebody that you would work with, Carla, to figure out, you know, like what is the slope and what is the distance, and you know, is it even feasible to have a broader path with a portion?
I think, you know, it's pretty good idea to speak to as many people with mobility issues as possible about what would really be practical for them. I mean, given that, you know, there's always a limit to what we can spend, I think it's worth, I think probably quite a lot of people find walking up a steep slope awkward. That's my guess, but I don't know. And I think maybe through Sky, we could access more people with mobility issues and ask them what they think.
I'm mindful of the 15-day deadline.
Yeah. That's what I was gonna say.
And thinking,
Not
okay,
that
well,
you
there's
do
this pass and maybe if it comes up another year, we would have more. Is it a one-off or is it something that we might apply another year?
I don't know offhand. Have you ever seen the funding?
It's a brand new funding source and this is their first intake. So what I understand about it is the intention is that it's gonna be at least yearly. That's
Yeah, I
an
kind of
option.
remember reading that too.
Yeah, so maybe a
The
good,
Headwaters Park that you were proposing, were you thinking of putting a rail along a flat portion or for a
So,
sloped portion of that trail?
so the reason that I was thinking of that is because the trail is already quite flat. And that where the boardwalk is, there's a bit of a slope, but perhaps that's what we could put the money towards, is making that part more accessible. And then the boardwalk that's there, already has tall railings on both sides. So we could potentially just add a handrail. And then there's an interpretive sign there. It's a nice area to look out on and there are benches.
Sounds like a nice way to add value to something that's existing infrastructure and make it more accessible to more people.
Yeah, that's.
That sounds,
And it sounds like you already
Mixed building.
have kind of a budget in mind. It wouldn't, like costing it won't be too problematic.
It does seem like the easiest thing to do because we're already planning the project, to just add a little bit more to that project would be a lot easier. And then, all the complications with wheels and salt water and that kind of, and not knowing who might use that equipment if we buy it. If
and the
it's
library
actually that
wouldn't have
valuable.
to store the handrails and assemble them.
Okay, so
I feel pretty good about that
so that's a nice discussion and
Yeah.
you will let us know if you want
okay,
any other
sure.
feedback input.
I'm just gonna share because Councillor
Oh, you found
Jurgensen sent a tandem, looks like we've moved past it, but just for fairness, this image was
I really actually kind of
Shared.
like that idea of the tandem bike.
I really like the idea of an electric tandem bike. I think it would be a fantastic way to allow someone who is visually impaired to actually go on a bike ride with someone who can steer it. Or someone that doesn't have as much strength to go with someone else or has, yeah.
And I think it also, many people would use it who live on Bowen, but it could also be very attractive to tourists. So
It would be in demand.
I have friends where, the wife couldn't have bicycled on the family holiday, which was they wanted to have a biking trip, but the husband could carry her on a tandem bike. And so that's how they did their holiday. So
Put
I
it right at the electric car charging station, in the library parking lot.
oh, perfect.
Walk on it or something, I don't know.
And then if you can work with Alex, you've got some matching there too.
I was gonna just suggest that, maybe an electric bike like this it's not really possible for us to deal with. It's not really something that's in our wheelhouse, But that advocating to the person who is already renting electric bikes in the cove, like maybe that's more of a model for a piece of equipment that is that expensive. Maybe it's something that we can ask them to purchase.
It's a good idea.
It's available for rent.
It's a great idea.
All
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Okay.
Storing them there already.
Yeah, perfect. All right. So
Very clever.
I think are you happy, Carla?
Yes, very. Thank you very much for your input.
Thank you. And then we have this knick-knack note. Is that also you, Carla? No, Jillian. That was Jillian.
that's just a little quick bit of nice news, really, because this came in last week and I was speaking with staff and we decided just to pop it on the agenda so everybody knew basically, but so we
Nice to
applied
meet
to
you.
the Nipmuc Mill Social Sustainability Fund for funding to enhance accessibility in recreation programs for children. So we were successful in that, which is wonderful. And they will be supporting It'll be facilitating us being able to hire an aide to come into camps if a child needs that extra support. And our summer camp staff, I mean, they're not equipped necessarily with the skills, or they've got lots of kids to deal with, right? So they'll help paying for an aide, but the almost more exciting part about it is about the training and building capacity on the island itself. So we're looking at sort of two models of training. One will be working with the Canucks Autism Network and the BC Recreation and Sport Association, and they run a program called Autism Awareness Training for Recreation Program Leaders. Slightly less words in that. That's the idea. But so we'll be able to bring them to the island and offer that not just for our camp staff and volunteers, but anyone who teaches in recreation with the children. We're going to offer it to like the yacht club and the football club and all the baseball coaches on the island and everybody that works with kids, the after school club program. So everybody can come for that training.
You know when
Build community capacity.
You know when that will be?
No, because we just got notification last
Will
week.
it be before the summer?
Yes.
Okay.
No, they're waiting for us because we talked to them quite some time ago saying if we don't get the grant, we have to do it smaller,
Yeah.
less time, but now we have the means to open it up and have a good long training for people.
Maybe send by summer.
Yes, Dan, absolutely.
Well, maybe you need to ask if anybody else wants to join.
Yeah.
If you have capacity.
Oh, yeah, the intention is to ask the community broadly, anybody working with children in programming. It's not for school, because they're going to have that training, right? This is for all the rest of us that, work with kids in that informal education environments or not.
Alex has his hand up. Alex, you have a comment?
Oh, yes, both a question and an offer here. One, Jillian, is our Camp Own staff would love to participate in that as well. On the flip side, we'd be more than happy to exchange that for offering some additional work on working
Audio now
folks,
unmuted.
who are visually
Press
impaired
the
or
end.
deafblind, for folks in the community doing recreation.
And lowered.
Great, thank you. Thank you.
Well, I'm thinking back to what Peter said at the beginning of the meeting about, all the things that people have to learn to adjust to. But, sometimes in older people, they come with, and then you've got your hearing loss, and then you've got your vision loss, and then you've got your mobility loss, and your cognitive problems. So things there's no guarantee you have only one issue. So I think that idea of, building, with the autism that you're starting, but also kind of having that open view and maybe vision is an issue, that is also kind of close enough that the skills of the people working with children can be expanded. And it is not going to be impossible that you have somebody with a hearing loss. But I think maybe that's kind of we're excited about this, and congratulations. And, if we can kind of build on, other possible ways of making the programming accessible for children who have other problems or combinations of problems. That's a great start, but let's keep going. All right. Sure, I don't do children, but old people.
But they're out there.
They exist.
Well, I think if you kind of also get in the, kind of test out how to develop the training for children, there will be lessons learned, that may inform, how we would do the training for older adults. Because they're going to be a little bit different. So then it's kind of nice, comprehensive approach for your staff. If it's kind of, they can build instead of having a lot of different pieces, it actually looks coherent. Great.
Thank you.
All right. Shall we move on? Peter, Nick, you're okay with Jillian's
all happy and credit for identifying the need and applying for the grant.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, it's exciting.
Well done.
Thanks.
Okay, so our next topic is these delegations. So this was an idea that Steph raised. And delegations, I guess, is the word for when visitors come and do presentations. So Carla and Jillian are sort of delegations from Bowen. But I think what we have an opportunity to do is have delegations of other experts who may, bring us some knowledge that we can use as a committee. And, just to kind of open the bidding. Yeah, we have 3 more meetings before the summer break, and the next topic, I saw a presentation on this Oracast done at an international conference, and the person who did it is willing to do this. And I think it is timely, given the need to sort out the microphones, because you can you can sit as many microphones as you like around a table, and they all go into a box. That's the easy part. The hard part is getting them out to people. And the problem with this room is there's no speakers, right? So it doesn't matter in this room having a microphone if there's no loudspeaker. It's not going to help anybody. You see what I mean? So this Oracast is kind of on the broadcasting end. So assuming you can get microphones to put signals into a system, you could have a PA system and have acoustical output, but having this technology is just going to be a game changer. So we can put microphones around tables. We could go to Radio Shack and buy a bunch of microphones and plug them into a box. But it's how do you get it to people? How do you get the receivers on people? So I think that I'm excited that she agreed to talk to us. The other person that I sent people the report about national parks, which also seems to be sort of timely with respect to Carla's. And he had a family health issue, so he's willing to come at our June meeting. And then the third contact who has agreed to come, and Steph has suggested, they talk for 15 minutes, we have Q&A for 15. And I think they will be online for those 3. The third one is the head of gerontology at Simon Fraser, who has a big project that's called Demscape. So it's about making communities dementia friendly. And it works closely with Alzheimer's Society and other cities. So they've worked with the city of Vancouver and the city of Burnaby and New West, and also with some smaller places in the interior. And they have like an army of students who, would like to get experience doing this. So it's like, oh, I think we should do this on Bowen. It's like, okay, let's do it on Bowen. So those are 3 ideas. They could fill up our 3 months, but I don't want to not give you an opportunity. If you have other ideas of topics or presenters, that is kind of open.
Happy with those.
Peter?
I think these are great ideas. And the other thing, of course, is that this is a process that we're engaging on. It's just sort of thinking differently about how we do things, build things, manage things. So I think, this has all got opportunities for learning and for trial by experience and seeing how things work. I think it's a fantastic idea. The SFU project sounds really interesting. I have no idea what they might come up with, but it sounds like a great idea.
Okay, so I think those are good to, kind of give us some new ideas, and then we could decide how we're going to apply them or go further with them. So I'll confirm those then. Feeling if that's okay with people. Are you thinking, Tina, kind of thinking, you know, we can learn, our committee can learn, but these are potentially, you know, there's potentially a whole lot of topics under the accessibility umbrella. And maybe we can strategize about, you know, how they could become broader public events through the library.
Yes, for sure. We have a schedule by which we do our programming, so we do it quarterly and we do it about 2 to 3 months in advance of the next quarter. We plan what programs will be offered at the library because there's just that time you need for marketing, for organizing, for planning, and for actually scheduling when those events would be. But happy to talk about, probably it would be summer or fall now is what we would be looking at if you wanted to do something at the library as a public program.
So I think that's something that we should put in our report about how to bring those things forward under the advocacy section, but maybe it's another agenda
Even for
item.
these, we can just do a little extra push on our, we regularly send up the agendas.
Yeah.
You do a little, meetings are always open, but we want, like,
Yes,
might wanna come,
that's right.
come in on Zoom and check that out, and you're free to ask questions.
Yeah, and the fact that it's like, you know, a half an hour, that people might find that
More
something
accessible.
they wanna watch.
And YouTube can be our friend. If we set it as a particular time, if we're recording and live streaming this, then that presentation would be available to all through YouTube, just like council. And it's just a matter of
So maybe we
letting
can
them know.
bundle them also, promote them in a different way.
Yeah, I
apart
don't
from
know.
it's Another committee meeting that
Yeah,
will put you to sleep.
I don't know if you could chop it. I don't know about editing.
I'm pretty sure you
In
can.
theory, you could just take their presentation and put it as a standalone and just provide access.
Yeah,
And then, you know, people can watch it from home and they're getting something that's good information.
yeah, kind of take it out of the meeting context too. That's a good idea.
Sorry, Steph, if
You
I created
captured
word.
that?
No, it's editing's easy.
It sounds to me like something that would be part of the accessibility plan that we're gonna create.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's right.
Right, we're gonna have a plan, and that plan might include education, long-term.
Well, and communication.
Exactly.
That kind of stuff, right?
Okay, so moving along. So this Rick Hansen Foundation, a few people have told me that they had a good experience, you know, building new buildings and working with Rick Hansen Foundation to get the stamp that they're, you know, meet the accessibility criteria. I have looked at it and I really have no idea how much it costs. It's rather vague about, talk to one of our professionals and they all charge different amounts and do different things. So I have been very reluctant to proceed with that because I don't feel I have the authority to do it. So I don't know what you suggest, Steph, but I think somebody needs to check this out. But then somebody needs to decide if it's something that the municipality wants to do or not, because it's their facility, for example.
So that would be something that could, as Tina was saying, recommending getting Rick Hansen certification could go in the action plan.
I think we want to know more about it before
Well,
we recommend it.
well,
'Cause we
that's-
don't want to just write them a blank check and say, tell us we're good.
Yes, Nick has got he's got the drift of my hesitation. It's like, somebody should check this out.
Okay, so maybe next meeting when we have a quorum, we can do a recommendation to council to direct staff to do some research.
Okay, and you can help us to
Yeah, sure.
to kind of get that
Sure,
framed correctly?
sure, I will make that note for next meeting.
Just thinking that in our, that spreadsheet that we're using to kind of help inform the plan. We do have
a section about built environment, about municipal buildings, and we have,
An advocacy section too.
well, yeah, but we have in the actions to take, because that's where I'm sort of focusing now. What are the actions we need to take? And one is complete accessibility audits of all publicly accessible and municipal buildings. That's what we've listed as one of our actions to take. And I think that if it's actually in a plan, like here's our action plan, these are the things we want to do. I think that would be, the library is going to do one outside of the municipalities, and we're doing it in concert with another library group called Interlink. And it may not be Rick Hansen. There are other organizations that do similar things, and they sometimes use staff that's been trained under the Rick Hansen Foundation training, but they're cheaper. Spark BC is one that this group is looking at using. So I would agree with you. You don't want to say, do an audit with Rick Hansen. I think you just want to say, do an audit. And then the next step is go and get pricing from 3 or 4 different organizations to find out.
I think that's exactly where it's like, where is the boundary between what we do as a committee versus what the staff has to do?
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. As a committee, you can say, we recommend in our work plan that to meet the requirements of the accessibility legislation, we need to have a plan, an action plan, and that can be one of the things that you then bring to council to say, here's our plan, and these are the things that need to be done to meet that plan. And they'll all have money attached to them. They just will. And that is council's decision, not ours, right? Council has to decide which of those action plan things will be their priorities and where they'll put the money and.
Yep. Okay, so do you have minutes that make sense on this point?
Well, no, I think that we've gone from maybe doing some recommendation next week to just including this in the plan.
Yeah, we've gone all
actions, so.
Well, and
Yeah,
maybe
no, I really
as
like
you.
that.
Not following the agenda very well.
Maybe as you,
No,
well,
it's great.
it's the topic of what do we do with this Rick Hansen Foundation?
I think you had the phrasing though, was ask staff to research providers of this certification type stuff.
And maybe if Tina has experience from the library.
I'll certainly share with you what I find out from Interlink, which is 18 libraries in the Lower Mainland who all have the same requirement. We all have to meet these guidelines, and we all have similar organizations that do similar things. So we're looking at spending some library grant funds on doing a whole bunch of audits on, like, all libraries do story time. So we don't need each library to have an analysis of how to make story time more accessible, because every library does story time. So it's sort of that idea where you're doing all kinds of things the same from library to library. So let's not, duplicate those expensive services every time. Let's get one organization to look at that for all of us and say, here's how you could make these things, but here's how you can make some of your programs more accessible. And then we'll have some options in this project for each library to decide if they can to add on services like built environment. So we'll probably add on having the library building or buildings audited through that process, which will leave it out of what the Muni needs to do, and the Muni could just do your own.
And I think this idea, like what happened there with Jillian, about sharing, like if there's training about working with autistic children, the same children that are doing lots of things.
Yeah.
So it generalizes.
Yeah.
And I think that's another hesitation I have is how much do we need to pay outside people versus just kind of muster our own sharing? And what can we do ourselves versus what do we need other people to do? So I think that's the end of this Rick Hansen is that it's important, but it is not a standalone kind of.
So can I get clarity on what is the rationale behind committee volunteers not being able to inquire around pricing? Why would that need to be staff and not a committee member? find out how much.
I think you're the expert on that stuff about the role of committee.
Yeah,
So
feels like
you
a
can
committee
tell
member could
us.
do it. Like if Nick wanted to make a call or an email or
Well,
something.
I thought about picking up the phone
Mhm.
and saying, okay, well, there's this community center that's being built on our island, you know, and but is that a
You feel
call
like
I
it's getting a
can
little
make?
proprietary or something?
Well,
Okay.
I just don't know that I should,
Okay.
that I have
Well,
That's a good
the,
answer.
I'd be willing to make that call. The only thing is, if I were the manager of the muni,
Right,
I would be
I think,
concerned about somebody who is not of the muni
right.
negotiating or asking for services without
That-
that person
that's my
being in my
hesitation.
reporting chain.
Good answer. Thank
that's
you.
that's my
There's no
hesitation.
pricing guide that's online somewhere.
It's
that
like
just needs a bit
I'm
digging around.
happy to partner with somebody, but I
it's-
don't
it's-
feel like I should be.
It's likely to be custom.
Right.
And
Yeah, right. Okay, thank you.
I don't think the muni wants,
And then there's questions of if you're having someone do an accessibility audit on the community center and and you're getting a price for that, well, maybe there would be cost savings by having them come and do the works yard and the library and the fire hall and whatever other municipal buildings at the same time. And that would be a different cost, but cheaper to do it all in one. Like, those are the things you just don't
Got it.
you have a bigger
Until-
picture than I do?
until you get to that place of, yeah.
And I think that was a kind of an approach that made sense to us in the fall, was the muni has already got, you know, lots of staff working on lots of projects. And they don't need like a whole new department for accessibility. They just need to have the flavor of accessibility informing
Woven
everything
into
that
it.
they're already doing. So I think we are advising. And we could, you know, support people if they want us to, but we're to do that line. I don't know who decides that.
But yeah, this is really good. We'll just keep
The
looking at keep
counselors
that audit
maybe
in the
can
action plan.
have some insights into this. I don't know. Do you have any reactions to that, Alex?
Audio now on mute.
I think it's one of those things of finding that right balance, and each municipality is going to have its own balance it needs to strike, because there is, you know, some need for staff to have certain levels of experience. There's certain things that are best left to the nonprofit sector, and certain things also just left to outside contractors. So it really depends on what the balance that the municipality ends up striking. And I think this is all still very early days for the legislation. So understanding what that balance is going to take some time.
Yeah. And if Tina is going to be the pilot subject with the library, she can kind of be on our committee and also be the authority making decisions with the library. So that's great. All right, so our famous plan, we have 30 minutes left, and I have, well, we all got kind of waylaid by that snowstorm
Yeah,
and Christmas holidays, so we haven't actually met for a while. That's the way I'm feeling. And I am now reconnecting with this and my schedule, I have time to do this. Now what is
do
I want to say Daniel?
Drew, do we have the last version of that spreadsheet somewhere?
I think it was not the version you included when you sent the email out with today's agenda?
Well, let me just backtrack for Nick to have context and for all of us, because we haven't been here for a while. So in the fall, we kind of had a little bit of a project where we identified a bunch of municipal documents that we should examine to see what they might already say about accessibility. So we kind of could establish a starting point. And then, who is your colleague?
Daniel Martin?
It is Daniel, okay. So Drew and Daniel were here and agonized with us to finally come up with a list that would be the topics in our report. So we looked at reports. These reports were due like in September. So we're kind of seriously overdue, but it's the first one. And we started in September, so it took a while. And there are examples from other municipalities, and we looked at results from our surveys and information gathering last summer, and we came up with an outline of headings. Okay, so the headings that are in this famous spreadsheet are transportation, built environment, which includes subheadings like beaches, municipal buildings, outdoor spaces, and housing. Another heading, which is service delivery and governance. Another heading that is information and communication. So things like meetings and would come under there, employment and advocacy, and then other. So it took us a while just to what are the headings going to be? What are the sources of information we have available to us? And that was kind of the method to the madness behind the spreadsheet.
You would have seen that, as Tina pointed out, on the email.
Came with them.
It's getting.
I looked it over. It's a lot of material to consume.
Well, what I was trying to do was also convince myself that all the pieces were there. So when I go through my emails, I have quite a lot of emails from Robin and Angus, who looked at various topics. I have some emails from Sue Ellen, who looked at various topics. And sometimes they have just things in Word documents, and sometimes they have attached an Excel. But I personally have not been integrating those. Have you been doing that? Or is anybody actually, what I feel like I need to do is take all the raw material that has been contributed and just check and make sure it's all in the master spreadsheet. But maybe you've already done that.
I've been keeping up to date throughout. I've been adding everybody's contributions.
Woo.
So it's done.
It kind of is a bit. And then we had, just for Nick, again, this, can you see, I don't know, on my chair, the Port Coquitlam Hotel the World. The Port Coquitlam accessibility plan was one that we were really jazzed about being accessible to us as far as, I'll send you a link on that, the structure and layout and approach they've taken. I can send you a link on that. So they don't use all the headings. The headings that Kathy's mentioning came from the province. And there's a template that comes from the province. And these guys are only using 5 of the 8 headings, I think, for their plan.
We have 6.
Yeah, we have 6. So
Does our 6 include their 5?
I don't know.
Well, I think some of these issues like beaches, are a bigger deal for us than some other municipalities that aren't islands. So we have a ferry,
The headings are valid.
Yeah.
And then they flow
The
up,
details kind of get more and more specific.
which is
Makes sense,
I
right?
think we have all those 5 plus advocacy maybe. Sorry, I'm not troubles reading from this part.
Okay, so we have service delivery there.
Yeah, we have something called service
So,
delivery and governance.
yeah,
We have information and communication, we had built environment.
so I think the structure is there. There's a lot of details there. And I'm very happy to hear you sounding confident that, the bits and pieces have been assembled. I tried to, our task from last meeting was to use headings from the transportation plan to fill out some of the subheadings in the transportation document.
Right, because the transportation topic was so were so many comments in there, right?
And there was so much in the active transportation plan that just
Right.
kind of was exactly compatible with what we would want to include.
Right.
That we don't need to reinvent it. We just need to cross-reference it. So I did try to do that, and then I thought, we could do this. But I think coming to these meetings, this is not the place to, I think we need to have some side meetings. So I am willing to, allocate, now I can allocate days to work on writing this, but I'm kind of feeling like I would like to do that with committee members, with staff in, two of us doing a section or small groups doing a section. Because it's just a little bit more participatory that way.
Sure.
Is there part of this that you would have an interest in being involved in the writing of, Peter? What?
Yeah, I'd be interested. I can help. I'm put my name down. I'm not looking for more things to take on, but I'm very much willing to play a part in some of it. Are there any particular sections that you're thinking?
Well, I don't think we have a lot in this service delivery and governance. For example, it would be like the meetings and so forth.
Councillor Jurgensen has his hand up.
Okay, Alex?
Press C and
Having done accessibility plans, several of them in the past, more than happy to help out wherever is most helpful.
Wherever. So I'm hearing kind of wherever from Peter and wherever from Alex.
looks like you're done
I
talking.
think
So
myself
the
might make the
Zoom
most sense for like coming at the more high level rather than in a specific section. But
Hand lowered.
again, more than happy to do whatever works best.
Well, I think governance and service delivery probably fits with your role as counselor too. Maybe.
Audio now inverted.
Can you put up do you happen to have those lists? Maybe I could
Sorry,
share
this list here,
the
spreadsheet?
topics. Let me just share. Share.
Oh, do you
Because
come
it's-
in the meeting? Are you in the meeting? No. Yes, you are.
Yeah, I am in the meeting. There it is. Okay, so these are the headings, just in simple. I don't know, is it big enough? Can you see it, Peter?
Yep.
So transportation, Robin and Angus have done quite a bit on. Built environment, Sue Ellen Fast has been working on parks. Robin and Angus have done a lot on housing. So those are the bits that I'm the most aware of. So where do you think we can put Alex and Peter? And I don't know if you have does any of this jump out at you as like?
I don't have any knowledge, but I have time.
Perfect.
So there's an offer.
Like time, people with time. So this, part of the work that is in the spreadsheet is from the surveys that we put out to community. Was it 100 people who replied? We also did a community session at the lodge, and that information has been in the Excel spreadsheets. And we've also taken existing plans and extracted accessibility themes from there to have for appendices.
Quite a bit of work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it just needs to be written. Would it make sense if you and I met so I could understand what your process is?
Sure.
And then I could do some of the tedious work. And then we could check in with the people who have already contributed pieces on certain topics or with others and get some feedback or
Sure, that works.
give them a bit of work to do if there's some task that needs this done.
Yeah, sounds good.
I think it's her notes.
Those are
Oh, just notes.
those
Okay.
are just
Yeah.
my notes.
Drew, do you have a kind of document of an outline of a plan? Like, have you and Daniel already made something that looks like the bones of a plan, or are we just talking about the spreadsheets that we've been using?
Yeah, just basically spreadsheets.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm hearing willingness
Alex is-
from Alex and Peter and Nick. Alex? Go ahead.
Another piece is that I know Jessica's done quite a big deep dive on emergency preparedness as well.
So is she gonna send that stuff or
Sorry?
will she send it?
I believe that has been, but I will
Hand
confirm.
lowered.
So say it again, what's the topic?
Jessica worked on the emergency preparedness plan and its accessibility and
Oh, okay,
accessibility related to that.
I'm not sure where that fits exactly, but
I will confirm with her and see where that was put in.
We'd think service delivery and governance, since emergency management is a BIM function.
It was the HRVA, wasn't it, that she was reviewing?
anyway, we can sort that out. But I think that will be efficient, and I think we should just kind of, I don't know what your life is like.
Sure, that sounds
Do you
good.
feel like diving in?
Sure.
All right.
Margaret, what's the timeline that you're thinking of for getting a first draft of these?
Well, what I was, this thing was due in September, so I guess the sooner the better. And I think it was, the time is right now. So next week I can allocate, full days, which is good, I think, for me. But, and then the next week, soon in May 6th, May 3rd, our
The
next
meeting,
meeting.
May 6th.
So I'm kind of thinking we kind of put a push on this, so we have some kind of a pretty good draft by our next meeting. Do you know your schedule?
Maybe he can confirm after the meeting.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and I don't expect you to spend, all day on it, but if we kind of touch base and then I can go and work on stuff and we can kind of have a fairly, rapid turnaround so that it doesn't kind of get stuck again.
Sure.
Because I'm not thinking we're going to get any new information from the committee at this point. We'll get feedback once they see it.
Yeah,
kind
the
of
feedback
laid out.
piece where it all comes out.
Peter?
Well, I'm pretty tied up at the moment, but maybe in some ways it's almost most efficient just to take on something myself, one of those sections. I don't feel I have a lot I can say about employment. That's sort of fairly specialized really, but I mean, I'm sure there's a lot already. There's legislation and stuff around employment and equal opportunity. I don't know really, but I think employment's probably fairly specialized. So I'm happy to take on information and communication or like service delivery and government. I think, as you say, Alex is well placed to do that.
Maybe you guys meet, you and Drew can meet and then see, I think they're gonna need to strategize the shift from Excel over onto what would probably be a Word document.
Yeah.
Probably in that Porker-Quitlam format.
Yeah.
And then access Peter's expertise at that point.
I think so. So I think if you have a process for doing it, which, I can learn about, and then I can help you. And then if we want help, I'm just putting names on topics here. So if it's like, well, we really need a little bit more work on this topic, and then I can go to you, Peter, and say, okay, here's a task. can you do this piece of information and communication?
Okay. Because I also see there's a lot of overlap in these things, so we need to kind of iron out
Yeah,
who's
exactly.
going to do what where.
Exactly. I don't know how you do this, but I don't think at this point it's ready for people to take sections until we get more of a little bit more meat on the skeleton.
Yeah, good point.
And I think we have the content that's already been provided, but then we will realize there are duplications or there's gaps. And then we might want to kind of do a bit more.
I think the writing of it will sort of highlight where we have gaps.
So if I look at my calendar, so next week is the week of April 22nd. And then we'll get to the last week of April. So maybe the last week of April, we may go back to people. And then we have our meeting the first week of May. So we'd have next week to kind of dig in, and then the week after that to kind of check in with committee members. And then we could come and look at it at this meeting and decide where to go from there.
Sounds good.
So it's a kind of a rough plan.
So you're saying that you'll get in touch with
So
us about
kind of the last week of April, the week of April 29th, we may touch base with you so that will result in us having a draft we can all talk about on May the 6th. And then after May the 6th, then everybody can, look at the whole thing and give us feedback on the whole thing. Have multiple eyes on that would be good. Does that work?
I think so.
Okay, well, I think that is good. So that is a plan. And then we'll finish this. Then we'll be all done next week, and then we can have summer holidays. No. We will be busy. All right. So we have this action transportation plan under my heading. I don't remember. Except I was going to put the headings in.
Yeah,
and
but we're not doing that anymore.
Well, I did do that, but then I thought, oh, well, I'll check in with Drew about that next week. Do we get any updates on that? We made some suggestions. Do we know if any of the suggestions we made about that active transportation plan included?
Oh, yeah, everything in the discussion is included in what's sent to the engineers to, so they're currently amending the plan that they created based on the discussion.
Nice. That's actually, if you want a little bit of reading, that is a nice document to read.
That was in part of the email,
Oh, it would have been.
and I reviewed it. I have questions, maybe not now.
Yeah.
I don't think Drew can handle any more questions on that project.
So we have action items from previous meetings, and I think there was one from Sue Ellen about air quality. But I don't think she is not gonna tell us about that.
She did provide, I can speak to this if you
Okay.
Yeah, so the action item of providing information regarding air quality in the community center has been attached to the agenda. Information item number 2 is linked to your agenda package. Community center air filtration system report dated May 2021. Okay, you are interested in it? I found it good for insomnia. Apparently everyone wants to read it, so there it is.
Right, and do we need to?
Filters MERV 13.
Right? MERV 13. Do you want me to review these action items then? We have?
Sure.
Okay, so from last meeting, the headings about the active transportation plan. That's done, not done. Number 2, review someone needs to excerpt from the active transportation plan, but actually it's not finished yet, so that can be ongoing.
Yeah.
Or excerpts. Councillor Fast, provide the air quality report. That is complete. Next agenda, discuss the Rick Hansen Foundation. That is complete. Ongoing actions from October. Ongoing discussion of the community center. Councillor Jurgensen and Jessica, we're going to discuss wayfinding solutions with the community, with Jillian. For blind wayfinding in the community center. I believe that has taken place, Councillor.
Press CMD.
Yes, we met with Jillian and Lee last week. Had a great tour of the facility, and we're able to discuss, have an initial conversation about wayfinding.
Awesome.
Looks like you're done
Other
talking,
accessibility.
so we'll lower your hand lower.
Do you have notes on that?
You unmute audio.
I would be more than happy to send them along.
That would be very interesting.
Okay. Discuss hearing technology equipment for meeting rooms in the community center with Jillian Drake. That is for you, and you've done
I
that.
had a little recap and we'll have a forecast next week, next meeting.
And people are welcome to talk to Daniel. That's just a note there. Okay, that's the action items from the past. And for the future, the only thing I have from this meeting are 2 for Councillor Jurgensen is some training resources. It was in the, I think Jillian's, you have some training resources you're going to share, Councillor?
On audio now.
Yes.
Zoom.
Okay. You can share with me or with the group AAC@bimbc.ca.
Audio.
And
Both.
was there some follow-up on the tandem bike, or that's just moot now because we've moved on to Headwaters Park?
I think Carla the ball is in her court.
Okay. Great. So we don't really have any actions for next meeting. Oh yeah, then you 2 are meeting. What am I saying?
I'll book the delegations. I'll confirm those. And
Okay.
you can send them links and so forth, I guess.
Okay.
And then Drew and I will meet and try to get the report born.
Great. Nick doesn't have any actions. I don't think all the plans have been reviewed.
No, I was thinking that still may be incomplete, but we'll
Not
take care
today.
of that next.
Okay.
All right, so I think that is it.
That's it for now.
Very good, so we can adjourn. Yes, and we don't have to vote on that.
No. Thank you.
All right. Very
Well,
good.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming out. May will be a big month for us.
Okay, I say when I turn this off, we're gonna lose you, Alex. Thank you.
Audio now. And
Thank you.